Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And I did a little design a couple of months ago for Halloween where I made a little uh, magic wand. And it has a swirl pattern on it that everybody seemed to like. So I thought, oh, wow, that would really be neat to make into some links. So we're going to make a bracelet with links that have that little swirl pattern following the beads that are in the link. It's very, I'm going to not say basic because all you need are your basic tools and very basic beads. I'm using some very ordinary 6mm glass beads, and I'm going to show you how to kind of upscale those a little bit with a pretty wrap. So what you're going to need are your round nose pliers. The barrels are round all the way around. They taper a little bit smaller towards the tip. Your square nose pliers, slightly round on the outside, flat on the inside. If you buy these in the store or order them online, make sure that you get the ones that don't have little ridges or grips on the inside so that they don't mar your wire. The third thing is a cutter. This is a flush cutter. It doesn't have to be a flush cutter. It's just the one that I picked up, and we use that to cut the wire. You'll need a ruler to measure your wire, and as far as wire goes, you're going to need 20 gauge wire and 22 gauge wire. The 20 gauge wire is going to be used for your stem, and the 22 gauge wire, did I say 20? The 20 gauge wire is going to be your stem. The 22 gauge wire is going to be your wrapping wire. So let's get down here to the mat and get started. Okay, again, I'm using these very basic glass beads to make my little links. And I've cut 3 inches of 20 gauge wire, and this is actually left over from something else, so it's a little mark. It's been up. And 6 inches of 22 gauge wire for our piece. So the first thing I need to do is grab my 22 gauge wire and my 20 gauge wire. I'm going to give myself about an inch tail here, or half an inch tail, just enough that I can hold this wire comfortably with my hand to wrap. You can wrap it away from you or towards you. It doesn't matter which. So I'm going to put the 20 gauge wire or 22 gauge wire under my 20 gauge wire. And I'm going to wrap one wrap around the stem of my wire. Now I am just about an inch away from the tip, but if you're more comfortable on the 20 gauge wire, the stem wire, scooting it over, you can, because you'll still be able to slide it back and forth later if you need to. So I want a nice tight wrap around my 20 gauge stem wire, and it's still going to slide. What you can do to tighten it a little bit is use your flat pliers to just squeeze down on your little loop, the little wrap that you've made, just to get it a little tighter. It's still not going to be completely tight because we're wrapping round wire around round wire. So let me give myself a second wrap around, as close as I can get to my stem wire, and try to keep those rings closely together. You need to squeeze them together with your pliers. Okay. So I've got 2 wraps around, and I'm going to give myself another half a wrap. And squeeze again. Now I'm going to introduce a bead. Just pick up a bead, and we'll slide that on. And I'm going to bring the wrapping wire around the bead. I want to keep it kind of close. Nice little wrap there, just like that. Then I'm going to wrap my 22 gauge wire around the stem of the 20 while holding this wire that I've wrapped around the side, because I want to keep it on the side. If I don't hold it, it's going to roll to the top or the front. So I want to hold that down and wrap my 22 gauge wire around the 20 gauge stem. So now this is what I have. And you're going to mangle this along the way because it's soft wire, but don't worry. You can unbend it. Very malleable. It'll do what you want. So now I've got that wrapped around there one time. I'm going to push my wraps together so that there's not a lot of space in between my bead and my wrap. There's going to be a little bit of space, but that's fine. And I'm going to squeeze it down again, just get it nice, neat, and tidy. Squeeze that down. And then I'm going to bring out my second bead. I'm using 2 colors just because I thought it was pretty. You can use 1 color. You can use bitones. You can use whatever bead you want. I'm just using these 6mm rounds so I can show you how you can kind of elevate something that's very, very basic. So now that I've got my second bead on, I'm going to put a wrap around that second bead on the other side. I'm just going to wrap that around. Nice and snug. There we go. So now I've got a little swirl pattern on. So I'm going to wrap here above my second bead. Again, I'm holding on to this wire. I want to make sure it doesn't shift. So hold on to that wire. Do a nice tight wrap around my stem. Push it down. Nice and tight. I'm going to wrap it around there a second time. Nice and tight. And we have 2.5 wraps on this side. So I want 3.5 wraps on this side because we're going to be going back up to the top and wrapping around here again. So that'll give me 3.5 wraps on this side and 3.5 on this side when I'm finished. So I've got 2. Wrap it around one more time. Again, let's squeeze it down. And then my half wrap over to the other side where my swirl started. And I just squeeze it down every time. You don't have to. If you can see that everything's nice and neat, you don't have to always squeeze it down. Now let's make my next little swirl around my bead. So I'm going to flip my wire around, flip my beads around, and I'm going to bring this wire down the side of my bead. And it's going to be out away from this wire, and that's what gives it the pretty double swirl look. So just give it a nice gentle curve around, like that. And down under the first wrap, closest to my green bead. Here we go. And again, I'm holding onto my wire so that it doesn't shift. And I'm going to wrap right in between the 2 beads, all the way around, one full wrap until I end up on the other side where the first wrap is. So this is what I have so far, and I'm going to follow that up with another wrap right beside this first one. And again, I'm just going to give it a nice gentle curve around and land right up here, just above these 3 wraps, the 2 wraps that I have on the first side. And just make any adjustments that that you need to make it look the way you want. Now, I'm going to be wrapping this around the stem, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off this wire that I don't need, the one that I was using to hold everything in place in the beginning. That can go. So long. Go ahead and push down that little end so that it doesn't catch on anything. And go ahead and finish off my little wave, swirl, whatever you want to call it. Wrap that around one time, holding on to the wire so that it doesn't move. Nice full wrap around. And there we go. And remember I said this is going to bend. It's going to bend because it's soft wire, but you can manipulate it to look the way you want. And there is my little wrap. And cut this tail off. Squeeze these together nice and neat. Go. That's it. Cut off what I don't need here. And push down the little tip as closely as I can get to the stem. Use my fingers together. Here we go. Put a little bit. Get down there. There. Better. All right, and there's my little link. My little swirl pattern. Get it straightened out. Here it is. And now what I need to do is make some loops on the end so that I can attach it to the rest of my link. So now what you're going to need to do is link one of these side to side and the other one up and down so that you can hook them together because we're not using jump rings. So I have set it up so that I have one color on one side and another color on the other side, and I just continued that pattern. So this one is wrapped or looped side to side. So this one that I'm going to loop into it needs to be going up and down. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to bend my wire back like that. I'm going to clip it down. I know I need about half an inch, maybe a little less, in order to make my loop because I'm not making a huge loop. So I'm going to cut that down to the half an inch that I know I need. Grab my round nose pliers. Slide my wire down about 1/4 of an inch from the tip to make my loop. So what I'm going to do is I have my wire in between the prongs of the pliers. And notice how I have, if you get this directed, so that you can see, so this is what I have as far as direction. One prong is under and one prong is over the top of my wire. Nothing is sticking out the back here. I don't want the wire to stick out past my pliers. So now I'm going to rotate, just twist my wrist to get my loop started. And then I'm going to open my pliers and reposition them. Clamp back down, twist again. And I'm just doing small turns. You don't want to try and do like this all the way around because that always ends in disaster that I've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and make small turns, just small little increments until I have a loop. There's my loop. Lean in a little bit forward. Let's move it back so that it's centered right over the bead. Right in the center. Close that back up. And there's my loop. Here we go. Nicely centered. And then I'm going to go to the other side. This one's going front to back. This is the front and the back of my link. So this one's going from front to back. And if it's a little off, take your wire, take your pliers, and just shift it a little bit until it's going in the direction that you want. And then this one, I need to go side to side. I'm going to flip this over, go down here to the bottom, and put in a bend in my wire right above the top of my wrap. So it's going off to the side, like so. Clip it down to about 1/2 inch. Yeah. Grab my round nose pliers. Again, I'm going to slide it down till it's about 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes I say 1/4 of an inch, and sometimes I say 1/4 of the way down my pliers because these arms are about an inch. So 1/4 of an inch is 1/4 of the way. Okay. Make sure that the wire is not sticking out the back. And make my loop. All times. And so it's going to close. The tip is here against the rest of the wire, and I have a loop. Make sure that's closed all the way. Here we go. So you can see this one's going side to side, and this one's going up and down. So this is the front, and this one's going side to side. So there's my little link. Nice. So now I'm going to attach it to my wire. Now I also have a pattern of, I've got it going in an F all the way down. It's just swirling around like that. So, good. Here, rolling the pattern. I'm going to open this up. And the way you open it is to lift it from the side. You don't want to pull it apart. You want to lift it up. Slide the one that's closed inside the open, the one you just opened, and close it back. And there we have it. There. As you go, see if you have enough link. And now I'm going to be making a loop and a hook that go with this. So I'm going to be making them beaded. So I don't want this to be too long. Right now, I think I have about an inch that I need to fill in here. And I know that each one of these is going to be at least 1/2 inch. So that should be enough. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and grab some 20 gauge wire and make our loop and our hook. All right, so I need about 3 inches of wire to make my loop. Actually, more like 2.5, but I'd say give yourself a little bit of extra just to be safe. Right. So I'm going to give myself enough to wrap. And I'm not going to make a wrap loop. I'm just going to make a simple loop for one side. but I want to go ahead and do a wrap for my, a wrap loop to keep my bead on. Now you need to decide which side you want your bead to go on. I'm going to go ahead and do an alternating pattern. So I'm going to put the light one on the side to continue the light, dark that I've got going here. And then I'm going to put the dark one on the side with the light. So now I'm going to make a large loop. So I want to wrap this. So I'm going to give myself about 1 inch of wire. Bend my wire back. I'm going to slide my pliers down and give myself a good 3/4 of an inch of wire so that it's not, because this loop is going to be what my hook goes through. I'm going to go back here almost to the back. Give myself a nice big loop. So I've got my wire, the short tail of wire is right in between the prongs of my pliers. I'm going to bring that wire over the top and down the side of my pliers like so. Then I'm going to hold on to both wires, open my pliers up, and rotate them out of my way so I can bring the short tail under the pliers and over to the side so that now I have a loop. It's a little bit lifting over to the side, so I'm going to go back in and roll it until it's right there in the center. Here we go. I'm going to wrap that short tail of wire one time around my stem. And it's very short, so if you want to, use your pliers to do that wrap. See? I'm going to go ahead and snip off that little tail. Ooh, I almost, oh, look at that. I my fingers. Virginia. Snip that little tail off and push down. Okay. And now I'm going to put my bead on. I think I'm going to use the green one for the hook and the lighter one for my loop. I'm going to slide my little loop on, my little bead on, like so. And then I just need to make a little loop to connect to this side. Now this one's going side to side, so this needs to go up and down so that it'll connect. I'm going to bend my wire. And again, I'm just doing a simple loop. I'm not doing a wrapped one. Remember I said I didn't need as much as 3 inches. I really did not. Let's clip that wire down to about 1/2 inch. And roll my loop. Slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way down my pliers and make my loop. Out, get it centered. Yeah. The bracelet. Open it. on. What's happening? Oh, instead of oh my God. Oh, that's it. Okay. Pull it up. All right, there we go. Slide that on. Raise it back up. And let's make a hook. So for that, I'm going to give myself 4 inches. It's 28. Take them over here. Okay. 4 inches. Straighten it out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go down about an inch. Cooler thing is over here. About an inch and a quarter from the tip. And I'm going to bend my wire so that I have a short tail and a long tail running side by side. Let's straighten this out, get rid of this little curve that's down here. Because I really want them side by side. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze this as much as I can with my fingers, and when I can't squeeze it anymore with my fingers, I'm going to bring in my pliers. Let me get up here. Bring in my pliers and squeeze these 2 wires until they're as close together as I can get them. I want them side by side. There we go. Then I'm going to go down here to the bottom. See how that's kind of trying to cross over? I don't want that. Straighten it out. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom and about half an inch away from the tip. I'm going to flip that wire up. And by up, I mean this is going side by side. These are side by side. This wire, I'm going to flip straight up. Just like that. Then I'm going to grab my square pliers. I'm going to hold both wires side by side still. Right down here where I bent this short wire. And I'm going to wrap the short wire around the long wire. So, and I'm using the pliers as a guide to keep that wire as straight as possible. So I'm pushing it against, wrapping it right against the pliers. You can wrap that around once, twice. You can wrap it around once and cut it off, but make sure you get at least 1. I would say 1 to 1.5 full wraps around. Just to make sure that it's secure. All right, and then you can cut off what's left. I don't have that much, so I'm just going to wrap it around and then clip. This depends on how much wire you want it to see. There we go. Now I'm going to put my bead on. And for this, you can use 1 bead, you can use 2 beads. It's up to you. It's up to what you want. You know what? I'm going to pop another bead on there. Do I have enough 1 bead? I'm going to pop another bead on there just because why not? Oh, let me measure. Make sure it's not going to make it too big. I better stick with 1 bead. Measuring is always good. Okay, I'm going to pop my bead on. I'm going to go ahead and make my loop. So this loop is going side to side, so this needs to go, wait, this loop is going up and down, so this one needs to go side. And then my wire off the side here. Flip it down to 1/2 inch. Grab my round nose pliers. Make the loop. Like we've made all of the other loops. Yeah. And then I'm going to go down to the other end and make my hook. Now, you need to pick direction. Yes, I'm going to go up and down. So my loop is going side to side. My hook is going to go up and down. So I'm going to go right down here, just above my wrap, and I'm going to put a little bend back in my wire. Now it doesn't need to be a big bend, and you don't want to bend it. You don't want to bend at the bottom of my wrap. So I can use my fingernail to do that, or I can use a pair of pliers to do that. Depends on how focused you are on your manicure. But I want it right above here. I don't want a big space in between. So be aware of that. Just use the tip of your pliers if you're going to use them. And that's what I have now. Then I'm going to go to the very tip of the double wire, and I'm going to put another little tweak in it. It's just like a little ladle. So I'm just going to twist my wrist until I have that. So this is what I have. Then I'm going to go down here to my pliers, and I'm going to go right under where I put this little ladle, about 1/4 of an inch below. I'm going to go all the way to the back of my pliers with my wire, and I'm going to turn. This little ladle is pointing towards me. I'm going to turn away from me. I'm going to start the curve, just a little turn, open, reposition until my pliers are on top of that curve. Give it another little turn, open, reposition, give it another little turn until that little ladle touches my wire. And there is my little hook. Yay. So now I'm going to put everything together. Make any adjustments that you need to make. Go ahead and attach this to my bracelet. And I'm going to open that up to the side. Slide that on. The closed one is going to go inside the open one. You open a little more. And close. And make sure that the tip is backed up against the rest of the wire. There we go. And there's my bracelet. There we go. Isn't that gorgeous? That is just beautiful. Oh, the things you can do with a little bit of wire. I love it. There it is. No, that is just beautiful. I love this so much. It's really not hard at all, but look at what you can do with some generic glass beads and a pretty little wrap. So there's my bracelet. I really, really, really do love it. And I hope that you like this, and I hope that everything came out nicely for you. And this is going to come out just at the end of the year. So I want to say to everybody, I hope that you have a happy new year. I hope that you'll get in contact with me and let me know how this video worked for you and how all of the videos of the year work for you. And if you have any ideas for 2025, I would love to hear them. In the meantime, my email address is jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. You can leave comments and pictures that I would love to see on the DeKalb County Library Facebook page. That's Facebook. I lost it for a second. Facebook.com/DeKalb Library. That's Facebook.com/DEKALB. What's your name? DEKALBLIBRARY. And you can also leave comments on the library YouTube page, which is YouTube/DeKalb Library. I hope to hear from you. We all want to hear from you. And until next time, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you in 2025. Happy New Year.